have a nice seat here. So we just figured out a new way to get this into the garage now.
We took inspiration from the Flintstones.
Okay, so we're getting ready to do the teardown on the military Land Rover for the shop truck project. And so we've winched it into the barn, and we're gonna dismantle the entire truck so that we can do our restoration on it. Although it's not gonna be a full restoration, we're gonna restore it mechanically, but we're gonna leave the body a little bit rough. And the idea behind this is that if I were a Land Rover shop back in the, say back in the 60s or 70s, I'd probably be using a military surplus Land Rover like this. It wouldn't be in quite as bad condition as this, but I want to make the vehicle feel like a real work truck. I don't want it to look like a restored show truck, because that's not how I'm going to use it. We're gonna throw stuff in the back of it and really use it like a real workhorse. And we need a vehicle like that. Just yesterday, we had an order of parts dropped off with a tractor trailer, and it fell off the back of the lift gate into the road, right into the main road. So, you know, we used the Tacoma, backed it up, and we threw all the parts in there to get it off the road before anything happened. Having a truck like this is just a necessity, and it'll replace the Tacoma as the shop truck for NAO. It's about the same size as a Tacoma, 6-foot bed, but it'll be a whole lot more fun to drive. So the guys are removing the door here, and there's a lot of really unique parts on this truck. So one thing is, why is there a hole in the fender, and why is there a flush screw right here instead of a bolt? You have a slotted instead of a normal bolt. Well, that's so this door can swing all the way open, and there's a buffer that would go in this hole here, a little rubber buffer. So this side, the passenger could jump out with his rifle, swing the door all the way open, and it's a lot easier to get in and out when you're all kitted up. It's just a guess. All right, so the guys got the doors off, and I'll show you a couple other things that are kind of neat here. So if you come around here, you can see all of these military trucks were fitted with a fire extinguisher. And here's the original bracket to the fire extinguisher. And then another thing, we have this plaque here. And so we have all the military vehicles were fitted with this plaque. And this was actually called a Rover 9. So there's different designations for the military vehicles. So this is a Rover 9. And it's actually a 3/4 ton truck. So the 88s, the military 88s were 1/4 ton, and then the lightweights were, I believe all the lightweights were designated as 1/2 ton, and then you have these 109s that were designated as 3/4 ton trucks. And to get it up to that rating, there's some really beefed up axle housings. The front housing has a truss under it and some stronger axle components, and you have these heavy springs and these big, long, heavy shackles, and not to mention the frame is reinforced as well. So that's our original plaque there with Rover 9. So here's another unique part on the military vehicles. So they all have this deluxe hood, this dished hood, and look at the tire carrier on this thing. It's got a steel plate with the tire carrier off a rear door. So the wheel, it doesn't rest on any buffers on the aluminum skin. It actually rests right on these lug nuts here. And you have all these bolts going through into the frame. So you have this super reinforced tire carrier. I wish they all had tire carriers like that. That would save a lot of hood skins and frames. And then here you have these Jeep style hood hold downs and no latch in the middle here. So you just have a blanking plate there and just these hold downs. All right, so we're getting the wheels off here. This is part of our tear down list. We remove the wheels so that we can get all the bolts to the fenders, but take a look at these wheels. So these are split wheels, and so there's two pieces. There's an inner and an outer, and it's held together with these big bolts all around here, and you could even see some of the original red paint on the bolts. The bolts were marked with red paint. Here's a little bit on the outside too. And so these would have tubes in here, and this would allow you to unbolt the wheel, essentially take the wheel into two pieces, put the tube in there, put the tire in there, and bolt it back together. So you could change a tire or a tube without any sort of tire changing tool. You could just simply unbolt it. But these we probably won't be using. They're probably not safe for road use, honestly, because if any of these loosened up, you would have a pretty bad accident. So I'll probably stick with our normal 5.5 inch wide tubeless wheels like those over there. You can take a look at those, and I'll probably stick with those instead of using the split rims just for safety reasons. These you can see, I'll just show you, these are tubeless, so there's no tube in here, and they have this ridge right here to keep the bead on, or so they say, at low pressure, so it won't, or if you get a flat, so the tire won't peel off the wheel if you got a flat at a higher speed. So these are specifically tubeless wheels. It says tubeless right there, and this is what we use on all our restorations. So I'll probably be going with a set of these wheels, and I'll simply paint them in the matte bronze green, and it'll look right at home with, of course, some Michelin XDLs. C-clip on them. Yeah.
Unfortunately, no gun.
It's a penny. It's a penny from 1977. It's not.
Okay, so we're getting ready to pull the bulkhead, and this is always a big moment because either the bulkhead completely falls apart and just comes off without even having to unbolt it, or in this case, the bolts are seized in the frame. It's never easy. So we're getting ready to pull it. In this case, the bolts were seized in the frame, but with some heat and a pretty good size impact, we were able to get them free. So you can see with the fenders off, you can see this jack storage box. This is a military item. Notice no heater on this one. And I don't think that this was an FFR, the fitted for radio version, because you can see there isn't a lot of like crazy electrical kind of add-on things. It's all pretty much standard. All right, so yeah, now with the bulkhead off, you can see a few unique features on this frame. This is unique to a military truck, and you can see that the ride height is actually higher on this, not just because of the frame, but because these shackles are longer here. And to clear the drive shaft here, you have this cutout in the cross member, and up here we have these overriders on the bumper. This is for a NATO hitch on the front, but you don't usually see them with a hitch on the actual front of the bumper. The axles are also strengthened for the 3/4 ton weight rating, so you have this truss on the front axle here. And you also have the exhaust going through the frame instead of along the side here, like on the civilian one. So you have this hole in the frame for the exhaust to pass through. And the bump stops have these extensions to bring them down because of the added ride height. So it's pretty unique. The military frame is really its own thing.
Still attached. Do you want me to get this one?
Is there some attached? Did you cut the
It looks like it's still attached.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the tub off now so we can see the frame in its entirety here. And there's a few interesting items back here that you can now see. So we have the convoy light here. So this is just like that's a NATO light. It's just like the license plate light on the body, but it shines down onto, and it would probably shine down onto like a rubber flap with a white X in it. And some of them, this would shine down onto the rear differential cover, which would be painted white. But this one, that looks like the original paint there, and it doesn't look like it was ever painted white. So it probably had like a rubber flap with a white X, and it would just be a position on that 6-way switch on the dash where you could turn off all your lights except this one, and the car behind you would see that white X illuminated, but nothing else, and they would just follow that, and the car behind them would also follow that, and that way they can drive without their lights on and still stick to a convoy, so that's pretty neat. We have, yeah, you can see the frame is reinforced, and you have these bumperettes back here and these airlift rings. It's a little bit different cross member than the original civilian trucks would have had. It's a little bit narrower here, and it has the holes for the NATO hitch. But yeah, this is a pretty heavy duty frame. I mean, this was a 3/4 ton truck. So you have a lot of these reinforcements, and you also have the higher ride height. So we'll put this back to original, but using a galvanized frame. This frame is a little bit beyond repair, but we'll keep it authentic to its military heritage.